effectively. And so if he returns a bill of indictment against Donald Trump, he can submit that bill of indictment directly to the House Judiciary Committee, and they can debate the indictment and turning that into a bill of impeachment right there. So people are like, well, how is this all going to happen? It's not going to happen from those other committees. They're just exploring. The real action is the special counsel, and it's he's being directly supervised by House Judiciary. And it's just like, that is their investigation. So people don't realize that there's a link there between the congressional and the special counsel. And that's why it's all kind of happening that way. And the congressional committees have, for the most part, admirably stayed away from the special counsel's investigation. They've given him a broad path, and they haven't given any congressional immunity to anybody during Iran-Contra. Famously, they gave congressional immunity to people like Oliver North, who then testified, then wound up getting convictions overturned because they claimed they had immunity, even though it's not prosecutorial immunity, and it gets all very complicated legally. So I would say that this is the worst case for the Trump administration because things are really being done by the book. Except for Dana Nunes, pretty much everybody is trying to get to the bottom of this. And, these investigations are yielding fruit day by day. It's just they're not telling us everything they have for obvious reasons. And it's up to the special counsel to put it all together and to get some justice for this country.
It seems like these indictments and the indictment and the release of the plea deal with Papadopoulos was only because of statute of limitations on both cases, right?
That's what they're saying. We don't know everything. I mean, I just don't know. I don't care to speculate on it. They are what they are. I would, if I was to speculate on one thing, it's that Paul Manafort doesn't want to, get murdered before there's a trial. So if he's going to snitch, this may be how it's done,
Very interesting. Because there should be more charges on Manafort. There must be more charges on him galore. They don't even add in with Manafort those mail fraud charges that they throw in every federal case.
Well, you know what? He's facing 15 years already.
Right.
Gates is facing 10 to 15. They have him dead to rights. It's like you want to lock in your gains. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like when you're in a court case and you're fighting big forces, you just want to lock in your gains at a certain point. And I think they just hit that point. They said, okay, we're at the point where we want to get these people arrested, charged, indicted, arraigned, on bail. We're at that tipping point where one of them could flee.
Right.
And we just want to lock in our gains. Like, okay, we've all been talking because they've been talking with the council and all that stuff. And I'm sure they're trying to get, they're leaning on Manafort pretty hard since he's plainly at the center of all these schemes to a degree. I mean, he lived in Trump Tower. He has an apartment there. He was in touch with with Trump even after the election. And by the way, Qatar had space at Trump Tower as well for the Qatari airline, a state-run airline, 100% state-owned. So, people don't think of this, but, pretty much anything state-owned can become an organ of the state. When the state owns a popcorn stand, if they have a popcorn stand in Trump Tower, they can get on the phone and say, hey, yo, popcorn guy, go up to Trump and deliver this message.
Right.
And that's really simple as it is. Delivering messages can be incredibly simple in the spy game. And that's really all that they need somebody to do, a cutout, a spy, a drop. Here's a signal. And, Manafort, resident of Trump Tower, in fact, he bought the unit at Trump Tower right after Oleg Deripaska hired him and gave him all that money. Which, in retrospect, if you look at another wonderful little scoop that I published, German TV did a great job. It's subtitled, and you can find it in my, I think it's on Verified Politics. Pretty sure it is. Maybe it's on Occupy Democrats, but I'll tweet that one out. And it's like a 40-minute special that explains how Trump Tower has been the nexus of mafia activity, transnational organized crime activity, for quite a long time. So, this is just, it's a tremendous puzzle. Tremendous puzzle. I'm going to tweet that one out right now. It's a huge puzzle, and there's reasons why, it hasn't been put together faster.
Right.
But overall, like, there's 17 prosecutors whose sole job is just to do that. And that's why I think you're going to see a RICO case. I think you're going to see a broad racketeering charge brought for all the different frauds that they've committed. And they're going to say, hey, look, all these loosely affiliated entities acted in concert for one purpose, to achieve an election of a candidate based on, fraudulent and illegal activity. And that's pretty much what happened. I mean, even Gates, the assistant, the company that they listed in the indictment that Rick Gates operated, like Build LLC or something, but the company that he operated, the RNC, was paying that company throughout the entire election.
Oh, brother.
He was the campaign's liaison to the RNC. Now, let me just tell you, that's exactly what RICO exists to catch. It exists to tie together groups of people loosely affiliated but acting together in fact. There it is.
What do you make of Tony Podesta resigning the same day all these indictments come down, and his connection with Matt?
It makes perfect sense, and I'll tell you why.
Go ahead.
So there's a story that I actually just tweeted out again yesterday, and I'll break some news on here. How's that sound?
Okay. I'll put out a press release.
Okay. So the story was congressional Republicans hit with criminal complaint for Russian-linked campaign donations. Update coming today. I'll just post it on Twitter right now. So I received a letter from the person who filed the complaint. It is from the Department of Justice. Now, I don't know if I have to tell you how rare it is that the Department of Justice sends out a letter and says, thanks for sending us your stuff. We're going to take a really close look at this, and we just sent it to the Special Counsel for Investigation. But that's pretty much what the DOJ sent out, and I just got a copy of it actually last night from Attorney J. Whitfield Larrabee. He is on Twitter as well. I retweeted him recently, and I'm going to go ahead and get the letter out. I'll just kind of read it to you guys because this is pretty amazing stuff. I'm actually I've seen a lot, and this is Okay. This is really, really exciting to me because, like I said, you just don't see the DOJ. Like, even if you submit a bunch of stuff, they don't just send you back responses. But on October 23rd, they wrote him, "Thank you for writing the Attorney General. We've been asked to respond on his behalf. To ensure that your concerns are addressed, your letter is being forwarded to the U.S. OSC for review and any appropriate action. Please understand it may take some time to look thoroughly into the issues you have raised. Should you wish to contact the office directly, you may write to the OSC." Now, I tweeted the story because it's way too long to explain in the most depth here right now. But in a nutshell, there was you have the Ukrainian Party of Regions. That was Paul Manafort's boss for many decades. And they wanted to funnel money into Washington, D.C. So in 2013, or before 2013, they created a nonprofit in Brussels called the European Center for Modern Ukraine, ECMFU, or MF, whatever. So this Brussels nonprofit hired Paul Manafort's company, DMP International, and then he went and he linked up with Podesta and with the Mercury Group run by former Republican Congressman Ben Weber. He hires both of them to the nonprofit, okay? So what this lawyer complained about, Mr. Larrabee, is that this is a scheme that he was directing the resources of a Ukrainian cutout, the Brussels nonprofit, into the hands of DMP, which we know, into the hands of Podesta Group, into the hands of Mercury, right? And then those entities, particularly Mercury, went and gave donations to Idaho Republican Senator Jim Risch, recently resigned Representative Tim Murphy, who, by the way, when I wrote this story on August 15th, I'd never heard of. He was just kind of included in there. All of a sudden, his whole life blew up, and then, he resigned really quickly. And two other congressmen, Representative Dana Rohrabacher, who seems to turn up in everything Russia-related that there is, and another Republican House of Representatives member whose appearance in this matter is actually going to be fateful. I think it's going to turn into a massive scandal itself. It's Representative Royce from Ohio. He is the chair of the House Foreign Affairs Committee. He accepted money from Weber. Rohrabacher accepted direct donations from Paul Manafort, which have been proven to be, made on behalf of the Party of Regions. Just yesterday, Rohrabacher said, I'm not going to return money from Manafort. I'm standing behind him. And Mr. Larrabee reported all of this activity to the DOJ, to the House Congressional Ethics Committee, and to the OSC on July 4th. Actually, he reported Royce and Rohrabacher. Then the rest got sent off to the FEC in the middle of August. I think it's as plain as it can be. A classic foreign donor, they call it a straw donor scam, where you have a foreign donor who wants to funnel money into an American election, and they give the money to somebody else to give to another cutout to hand it out to the targets. And that's why Podesta probably resigned. But you have to realize it's because Manafort hired his company. Manafort hired that other company. He directed this. So these people didn't realize that they were getting necessarily conned. I mean, they did due diligence. And then, of course, they made updated filings with FARA, and they're probably all cooperating with the authorities, most likely against Manafort, and that's where you have your indictment coming in.
And do you think that Podesta is cooperating now?
I would imagine so. I mean, the subject of this week's indictment was false statements to FARA, and that all relates to what I just described, this foreign donor the straw donor scam, which this guy reported. Now, I'm going to warn you that they didn't put the list of companies that he had into the indictment, but there's redacted portions of the indictment documents, not the indictment itself, but the basis that we don't know about. It doesn't mean this can't be added later. Anything that you do and you're indicted for, there's a statute of limitations, right? Well, they said this is because of statute of limitations. The prosecutors can always file what's called a superseding indictment, which just means they're going to file a new, bigger indictment to roll these charges into a bigger scheme or something next. So there's lots more shoes that are going to drop here. I mean, a shoe store's worth of shoes.
Yeah.
And this is just the beginning.
Yeah, it really does seem like there's just so much there. But will they bring in these Democrats too and go after them as well, or is this like?
But that's the thing. The Democrats were not in power, so they weren't trying to pay them.
Right.
So there's a lot of chatter. Okay, they go, oh, the Democrats paid for a dossier. They're colluding. Yo, man. Donald Trump tweeted that the dossier cost $12 million. Yesterday, Reuters reported the actual cost of the dossier, $168,000. That's the level of gap you have between the reality of Republican claims of scandal and the reality of no, they're there. Okay? I think if anybody who saw the Joy Reid video from this Sunday, where she completely cracked open and destroyed the Uranium One, manufactured scandal, anybody who saw that would probably agree. Then, on top of that, I wrote a story about Carter Page and his links to one of the former directors of Uranium One, because when he went over to Russia last summer, he met with Arkady Dvorkovich. Now, it might be a big deal that he was a director of Uranium One. And in fact, when he was a director of Uranium One, during that deal happening, he asked for a meeting with Bill Clinton. The Hill reported this last week with a lot of fanfare 2 weeks ago, October 19th. And Bill Clinton just forwarded the list of everybody who asked his people to the State Department, and they, of course, nixed it. So he never met with Arkady Dvorkovich. Now, this guy Page met with Dvorkovich, admitted it, told the Washington Post. Now he denies it. Okay, and